Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. We got some great guests today. And first of all, we want to start off with a conversation that our own Steve Johnson had earlier with Thom Schultz. He's the CEO of Group Publishing and an author of a very interesting book, Why Nobody Wants to Go to Church Anymore. Whoa. Let's join Steve and Thom as they talk about that.
You know, I really like the title of your book, but it's also a little disconcerting, I'd have to say. You know, the fact that why nobody wants to go to church anymore, I think that's been a problem that has been in the back of our mind, maybe a part of a lot of discussions. But I want to ask you first, before we find out what you found out, what was your concern that caused you to write this book? Did you notice this trend in your own church, perhaps?
Not only in my own church, but we've been working professionally resourcing churches over the past 40 years. And we've noticed a number of things over those decades that have led us to some real concern. There's something happening right now that's different than what's happened in the past 100 years in the church in America.
Okay, you know, I think of the 70s and the 80s and kind of the youth movement bringing up all sorts of praise and worship type churches. So we have seen kind of growth that way, but we are seeing some problems. Tell us what you have found in your research about people who are leaving the church.
There are some startling things happening today. In fact, 80% of churches today are either stuck or in decline. And we're losing people across the board, all demographics, all denominations. And it's especially striking in the younger generations. The millennial generation is leaving us in record numbers.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't Christians. They're what, just not going to church necessarily every week?
Correct. Although there is some softening in terms of people identifying themselves as Christian or with any religion, what's sometimes called the nones, the N-O-N-E-S, people who choose no religious affiliation, that group in America is growing, and rather quickly.
All right, so what were some of the questions that you posed to, I suppose, people who were going to church, who weren't going to church, and maybe people in between, if you can be that way?
Well, we found 4 different recurring themes that came up with people across the country, both in our own research and in other people's research. We conducted interviews with people across the country, and 4 things came up as to why they were staying away from church. First one is they say, I feel judged, that church people and the church in general judges me, myself, my background, my past, my lifestyle, and that's one of the things that's keeping them away. The second thing that we heard over and over, and this one surprised us a bit because we hadn't heard this before. This one was that at church, you're just lecturing me. It's a one-way communication setup where you're not interested in what I think. You're not interested in my thoughts or my questions. And they are interested no more in that kind of approach. People today are coming from an interactive society, probably driven by the internet, where they want to be involved in the process. They want to go back and forth. They want their questions addressed. So church as we know it simply is not set up for that in their point of view. The third thing that we heard is that, well, this one's probably familiar to us, that church and church people are simply a bunch of hypocrites. But what's new about that is they're not simply saying that, well, you say one thing and do another. What they're reflecting upon is that you're setting yourself up as a know-it-all, as the person with all the answers, and we know it's not that simple. They want to be engaged with people who are seeing that they are part of the journey, part of a spiritual journey, and that we're all in this together is what they're looking for. And finally, the fourth thing that we heard from people is that, you know what, your God seems irrelevant, or at least when I have attached myself to a church experience, a worship service or whatever, I don't really sense the presence of God there. I can find God elsewhere in greater degree than I do in what you do at church.
Well, you know, some of the things that you've mentioned there, if you just take the structure of how churches kind of designed the meetings, doesn't matter what theological perspective you come from, the format is largely, I think, the same. You know, you normally have a preacher who is preaching out there. Do you think this could really change a lot in that style structure to be able to be relevant to millennials, for example? Yeah,
that's what we're asking people to do, is to reevaluate the methods that we're using in the church. We're not asking to reevaluate the message. The message is the same and will always be the same. But the methods that people, human beings, have created over the past hundreds of years are called into question now. So, for instance, we're looking at coming back upon those 4 things that people say are driving them away from church, and we're suggesting 4 things that we can do differently that will connect better with today's culture.
So have you come up with those 4 proposals?
Yeah. When people say, I feel judged, we say, let's create an environment of radical hospitality. And by that, we mean that we're ready to accept, just as Jesus did, we're ready to accept the person just as they are without judging them. Now, that doesn't mean that we're endorsing everything that they do, or all of their values. We believe that we can accept without necessarily endorse, and that's what people are looking for. We call that radical hospitality. And when they say, well, I don't want to be lectured, it's a one-way communication structure, we say, let's engage in fearless conversation, where it's a two-way street. Even Sunday morning in worship, where we allow for people to engage with one another, spend a few minutes talking with one another about the subject at hand, and allow questions. Now, I know sometimes that makes pastors and preachers freak out because they say, well, what happens if somebody asks me a question I don't know the answer to? Well, that's where the fearless part of the conversation comes in, where we're not afraid to tackle any question or any subject that people come up with. And it's okay to say, you know what? I don't know the answer to that question, but together we're going to find some ways through this. The third thing that people say is that the church is just a bunch of hypocrites. But we say the antidote to that is genuine humility, where we have an authenticity that we project with people, where they get the idea that, you know what, we're all in this together. No one of us is closer to God, or no one of us has all the answers. We're all in this together, and we're going to work through it together. When they sense that, that's attractive to people. And then finally, when people say your God is irrelevant or I'm not finding God there, we advocate that we use something that we call divine anticipation, that we're looking for God to show up, and we create our experiences around that. We give space for God to show up. You know, I think sometimes in the church, we've become so accustomed to putting out what we're putting out that we're ready to move on to more advanced theological stuff. And where the culture is today is they're way back at first base, where they just want to know that God is real. And the more that we can bring up the stories, even from among the people, from among their peers, where they can hear stories of God active today, not just yesterday, not just 2,000 years ago when the scriptures were written, but today, where they can see that God is actually alive, active, and among us today. That's attractive to people.
You know, I think most of the items that you mentioned there, I think a lot of churches would strive to have. They may not have it, but that idea of saying, hey, we're not perfect. In fact, we're kind of the spiritual hospital, so that's why we're here. As well as a pastor, if he projects himself or herself as infallible, then that's going to be a problem right there, too. It almost, I think, when you were talking about this, I was thinking back, remember talk shows when you'd watch on TV, they'd be a one-way conversation until Phil Donahue started running up and down the aisles with microphones asking questions. Now, I only want to bring the analogy to that and a church service the same, but I think what you're talking about is having this ability to be able to have an ongoing conversation, which I almost think the first generation Christians after Christ left and left the apostles in charge, that's probably the kind of environment they had, because I'm sure they had a lot of questions, met in smaller groups, and I'm sure there was a dialogue going back and forth. So in a way, do you see this almost as reinventing ourselves back to what may have been the very first type of church services?
Yeah, in many ways, exactly that. We're looking back to how the church began, and we can find some real secrets there, I think, that we need to return to. Because what we're finding ourselves with today, I think, is not too dissimilar from what Jesus found when he came and began his ministry here, and he found that the church, as we know it back then, the temple, was distracted by all sorts of other things that weren't directed at helping people develop a close and growing relationship with God. They were all bound up in rules and traditions that Jesus was highly critical of. He came in part to help shake that up and help people realize that it's time to return to what we're really about. I think we're in the same place today.
All right. We only have a few minutes left. I want to ask, have you come across opposition to some of these ideas that you say how we could reinvent ourselves? Are some people saying, you know, this isn't what I really feel comfortable doing? Maybe some pastors who've had that thought?
Sure have. When dealing with the church in particular, we're dealing with a behemoth of a machine that is cloaked and bound by tradition. We've been doing the same thing for so long that our methodology in many people's minds has become holy itself. And when you challenge that, it makes people very uncomfortable. And when we talk about the reasons that people say they're staying away from church, one of the knee-jerk reactions that some church leaders have is wanting to attack the unchurched, saying, well, those reasons are bogus. They're just excuses. And they want to spend their time attacking people for coming up with those reasons on why they're staying away. And that's a waste of time from our point of view. To attack the customer, as it were, will never help us solve the problem and help make the gospel more approachable for people. Not changing the message, but changing the method of how we do that.
You know, I'm thinking you may be opening up a whole nother classroom activity for would-be pastors on how to perform your church service out of the box, so to speak, because of all of this. I appreciate you being with us. Thom Schultz, author of Why Nobody Wants to Go to Church Anymore. I appreciate you kind of tackling this, and I think a lot of people are going to be fascinated by what you've come up with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fascinating and very, very interesting, to say the least. Well, coming up next, delighted to have in the studio with us Doug Gould. He is the Executive Director of Foundations for Recovery. We're going to talk about an upcoming event in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're back, and boy, I'm delighted to have back in the studio with us today Doug Gould. He's Executive Director of Foundations for Recovery. I think one of the most impacting ministries we got going here in Southern Oregon.
Thank you.
And he's got the heart for it, and incredible success rate now going on. Doug, thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Perry. Thank you for what you do.
And for those that don't know, what is Foundations for Recovery?
Foundations for Recovery offers personalized peer mentoring, one-on-one recovery coaching. It's taking that person in the grip of their addiction and matching them up with a recovery coach, a peer, if you will, who've had experience in that type of addiction.
And you walk them out.
We do. We guide them along their pathway to recovery, and whatever they need to do, we have that mentor right there assisting them.
Now, that model is being recognized by other agencies that this one works.
Absolutely. We have been invited to the Peer Mentoring Collaboration Committee of Jackson County, and we have assisted Jackson County Mental Health with some of our own training material that we're using. Absolutely.
That's wonderful. All right, got a couple things going on.
Sure.
Illumination breakfast fundraiser. Tell us about it.
Yeah, these monthly events that we do are basically to educate the community and provide information to the community about what we do at the Foundation for Recovery. And it's also an opportunity to have the folks who attend hear live testimonies of some of our clients regarding their pathway of recovery, and also to encourage those who attend to become monthly donors. And this coming Tuesday, June 17th, the event has been sponsored by one of our great donors, Malolo's Coffee Roasters. Sal and Tammy over there have graciously donated the funds to put this breakfast on. It's going to be held at Punky's Diner on June 17th at 7:45. And I know it's early.
That's all right.
But it's a great event.
We got to remember, man, it came in the morning, not the crocodile.
Exactly. And it's just a quick event till about 9 o'clock, and then they can go to work and come hear some wonderful things that the foundation is doing.
Doug, you and I were talking off air. It seems that addictions is epidemic.
It really is. Absolutely.
And we're talking all kinds here.
We are. We're talking all kinds. And what's and I have such a passion for recovery. Being a recovered alcoholic myself, a pastor, pastoring, hiding an addiction, not knowing where to turn because I was in leadership. And it wasn't until I found myself in the emergency room with a blood pressure of 280 over 220, going on an alcoholic binge, that I found myself gripping on at the end of my life, and I said, Lord, don't take this light away from me. And God found in His infinite wisdom, Perry, to reach down in that hospital room and say, Doug, I'm going to give you one more chance. You know, and God did. And so from that moment on, I've had a heart and passion for those who have been struggling with addiction, and it affects all types of walks of life.
Well, again, the statement I've been saying for 30 years on the air: whatever God saves you from, brings you through, turns you around, makes you a minister too.
Absolutely.
And out of that comes the passion, and out of that comes the help. All right, now you received a very significant grant here.
Yeah, we put together a proposal, and I brought it here. We put together a proposal. Crater High School business class put together a opportunity for a nonprofit to receive an educational grant. And so what we did is we put together a proposal to bring a recovery fair to the community of Central Point. Wow. And the Community 101 project, which consists of the Myers Trust Fund, the PGE Foundation, AAA of Oregon and Idaho, saw what we were trying to do and said, you know what, we want to support the Foundation for Recovery. We want to put a positive face on recovery. And here's the thing, Perry, that's I'm excited to announce. From this event that we're looking at, and the date hasn't been set yet, but we're looking at September, which is Recovery Month, National Recovery Month. We're looking at putting together a fair of vendors, of food vendors, of music, and just having a positive face on recovery. But from this event, we are going to now branch into a different division of the Foundation for Recovery, and I'm excited to tell you this. We're going to get into youth.
Wow.
We're going to take ages from 13 to 17 and give them a peer mentor so we can walk them. We are finding out that young people are starting to use quite a bit now.
All right, this is significant, folks, 13 to 17. How many of you parents are worried about your children? And how many of you parents are literally in the middle of this right now, where you find out the hard way your child is addicted to something? Which kind of leads me into the next thing, these e-cigarettes. I'm hearing rumors that they're smoking these in class?
Absolutely. What's happening, and to tell you about the youth, I just received a call yesterday from a mom, not knowing what to do. Her 12-year-old son at the time started with marijuana, and then it went into it escalated into prescription drugs, and now it's into meth. He's 14, doesn't know where to turn, and that's why the foundation realizes we've got something unique here. We are seeing a tremendous sobriety rate that's happening. You know, we're pushing 55 to 60% people getting clean and sober here, Perry.
That's wonderful.
And so
huge numbers.
What we want to try to do for the community is to be on the cutting edge. And these e-cigarettes, you know, the idea behind these things was to wean the person who wanted to quit smoking. But
I understand that part of it's been fairly successful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what's happening is
the kids got them.
Yeah, and I was about ready to go buy one, but I didn't want to support the thing. These are kind of what they look like, and basically what they're doing, there's videos on the internet to show these kids how they can take these apparatuses here, these vaporizers, and turn them into to cook meth, to go ahead and smoke heroin, prescription drugs, and hash oils. And that's the epidemic that we're finding. And these kids, they're vaporless and they're odorless, and you can't pick up the odor. And so therefore, these kids are smoking them in middle school and high school. 1.78 million kids in the last year have tried e-cigarettes in the last year.
So something good, the bad side of it.
Absolutely.
But it is a problem, and it's happening in school. Wow. Again, so you'll be taking on young people this fall.
This fall, we're going to start branching out to offering almost kind of like a big brother, big sister type approach.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why should somebody call you and not some other agency?
That is a great question. Because when that participant walks through that door, Perry, first of all, taking the first step, if there's someone listening today and they know, 70% of homes in our nation have been affected by drugs or alcohol.
Right.
Directly affected by alcohol. 70% of the homes. We know at least someone who's struggling in addiction. But the first thing to do is make that call to either come through the door or pick up the phone. And a lot of shame comes with addiction. A lot of embarrassment comes with addiction. I know personally myself, I didn't want anybody to know. Mm-hmm. I closed the drapes and drank. Yeah. Trying to hide the pain and trauma that I experienced years ago. But when they walk through the doors of the foundation, they walk to people that want to give them hope. People who have been there, who have had been success through their own recovery program, and now providing a way out.
Well, this program, as Doug was mentioning, you're in the 50% plus success rate. Now, you say 50%, half, make it. Mm-hmm. Look, those are big numbers compared to other agencies with like 3 and 4%.
Absolutely. That's the national average, 3 to 5%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway, this is huge, and it takes one to know one, I guess.
Absolutely.
And you walk it out. Any timelines in this, or whatever it takes?
Whatever it takes. We try to encourage the participant to stay with us for a good 3 months, 12 weeks, 12 one-on-one recovery sessions. But most of our clients that come through the door are still with us, and we love that. And here's another thing: is that even though that some of our participants do relapse, we educate them through the relapse. We don't turn them away. Yeah. A lot of programs say, well, that was one and done type of thing. Yeah. No, we're there to help.
I would encourage churches throughout Southern Oregon support what this gentleman does. Now, most churches are not equipped to do this, and you said something to me, Doug, is a key.
Yeah.
You know that there's going to be a relapse. You understand a relapse, and you're willing to come back at it.
Absolutely.
And you do what a lot of churches just flat aren't trained to do. That's not a put down on the church. It's real.
It is.
And so the best way you do that, let's support these parachurch ministries that do what we just don't have the time or the training to do, and get out and do that. So how should they get a hold of you, and what do they want to do if they want to learn more about you and support you?
Yeah, the best thing to do is give us our office a call. It's 541-245-HOPE, which spells out, with numbers is 4673, but it spells out HOPE.
245-HOPE, okay.
Absolutely. Give us a call. Come on in. Let's do an assessment. Let's talk about how we can help that family member or that church member or that church staff member or what have you. But you can also go to our website at lovefoundations.com and check us out there, or just come down to the office and have a cup of coffee and talk with us. Right. We'd love to have that.
And that's where?
We are located downtown Medford at the Woolworth Building.
Upstairs?
Upstairs, room 419, absolutely.
All right, and mark down your calendar, Tuesday, June 17th, 7:45. Yep. They're at Punky's Diner, and for a promotional breakfast there, Illumination, and you'll learn more about it. And thank you, Sal and Tammy, for sponsoring that.
Absolutely.
And then when we get closer to September, we get closer to the fair, let's get you back in so we can make sure people are aware of that.
Love to have that. Absolutely.
Thank you for what you do.
Thanks, Barry.
I'm here. I send people to support his ministry. I'm telling you, folks, we got something going on here in Southern Oregon. It's not. You won't find this in any town.
Come see us.
It's
Come
different,
support us.
and it works.
Absolutely.
It works. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and I work at theDove TV. Compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Well, welcome back. Wow, how do we introduce our next guest other than the fact that he's seen all over the Dove TV? He leaps tall buildings. He outruns Peterbilt trucks. He has more energy than any one person should be allowed to have, and I have no idea what he puts on his cereal in the morning, but I want some of it. Todd Friel's with us, the host of Wretched TV. Hi, buddy.
Always a treat to be with you, sir. I'll try to calm down.
Why?
Clearly, my strength was not in my hair. Look, just for you, I used to have the tallest hair in Christian TV. Well, now that's really not true, is it?
I noticed that. You got a haircut. You got trimmed a little bit there. Yeah. Hey, Todd, nice to have you. By the way, thanks for your show. What a hoot. And we're honored to air it on the Dove TV network.
No, we're thrilled to pieces to be on the Dove network. I promise you, we are just thrilled to pieces. You guys do an excellent work.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, listen, a lot to talk about. Let's just kind of start off. What's your take on this whole Bergdahl debacle and the exchange of him for 5 Taliban bad guys?
I haven't heard a thing about it. Is there something going on? Kidding. Wow. Okay. Just for whatever this is worth, I really, you run your family. I will endeavor to run my family. This is not to tell anybody how to book their calendar, how much TV to consume or not. But I think with stories like this, we've got to be careful that we are aware we're in the world. But if your TV viewing is consumed with following a story when perhaps you could be doing other kingdom work, just be careful that you don't get sucked into this big black hole of the latest big story that we're told is all consuming. I love following this stuff. It's intriguing. It's like a different category of entertainment TV. You know, it's not those bawdry Hollywood shows, that show you what the celebrities are doing. Yeah. It's kind of a political thing. It can be a Christian's gossip. And so we have to be careful. Let's know the details. But at what point do we need to keep listening to this story over and over again when there are souls to be saved? So just a gentle, loving admonition to check your calendar and see how much time you're spending watching this particular story.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot, and but it doesn't seem to go away. It does. It is significant in a lot of ways, and
there's no question. But Perry, here's what I've noticed. They aren't talking about the things that I think are the most intriguing. We're getting a lot of the political details. Was he a deserter? That's fascinating, gripping stuff. The one that surprises me that nobody's talking about much is that the president had this fellow's dad in the Rose Garden who spoke in Arabic saying, "In the name of Allah, the most gracious and compassionate," while wearing a beard. I guess he could maybe be trying out for Duck Dynasty next year's season, but it looked to me like he was wearing an Islamic beard while thanking Allah, the most gracious and compassionate. And most people in this country didn't really bat an eye. And more than that, Juan Williams, who is one of the most likable liberals I've ever seen on TV, he, when this was brought up on the O'Reilly program, said, "Hey, chill out. This is America. You can say whatever you want to." And I went, now, wait a second. What would have happened if during World War II, a similar trade had taken place and FDR brought the parents of a soldier who had been traded into the Rose Garden, and the dad of the soldier said, "You know, my son's having a hard time speaking English these days, so Zeke Heil, Zeke Heil." Everybody would go, well, that was just plain wrong. Yeah. Why doesn't anybody say that was just plain, if nothing else, inappropriate today?
Well,
Why aren't we pointing that out?
It's just beyond our imagination. But it did happen. The excuse that we're hearing now is, well, we don't leave any American behind. But didn't we do that in Benghazi?
Yeah, and I get the principle. Charles Krauthammer, I thought, said something interesting, as he typically does. By the way, Charles Krauthammer, fascinating to watch from a conservative political standpoint. Right. I paged through his book. He's not a big fan of Bible-believing Christians, for whatever that's worth. But Charles Krauthammer said, as a civilized society, we value life. Those people do not. And so inevitably, these trades are going to be bad because we put a different priority on life, but then do the terrorists. I thought that was somewhat helpful. But where is the critique of Islam? Where is the critique of terrorism? Where is the critique of this fellow's dad talking in the name of Allah? It seems that political correctness has blinded us to what is obvious. Perry, undoubtedly, you've been tracking the story of the young woman who had her baby, and as soon as she's done weaning her child, they're going to kill her because she won't deny Jesus Christ. We don't talk about anything because our political correctness, I think our minds are darkened, Romans 1, blinded, and we just can't see what is evil anymore in this world.
All right, let me just camp on that thought just for a moment, Todd. You do enough of it, and I do as well with live interviews and things like that. I am hit pretty hard because people are saying, why do Christians even go there? This isn't edifying. We shouldn't be talking about this stuff. Let's go out and evangelize and get people saved. I get all of that, but since when do we dismiss killing human beings as nothing? I don't get it. You know?
Yeah, no, I have you been reading my emails?
Yes, I have. They come to me before they go to you.
I get that. And again, we want to watch our balance.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we're not just immersed to the point where it's becoming gossip and unprofitable. I understand this, but as a Christian, I will enter the arena in which my compassion is demanded. I not to be trite or silly, but I find it hard to imagine those same Christians would see a burning house and not rescue somebody who is screaming because, well, you know, we've got to be evangelized. Look, I'm all for evangelism. I love them. Are you kidding? We do it all the time here. But my compassion cries out to help people. That's the Christian informed heart. We care about people.
We have a philosophy hiding in a religion in this world, killing innocent people, and we Christians are silenced from talking out about it as being evil.
Yeah, it's interesting. Because, you know, we've been following all of these other stories these days. I call it the new morality because Christianity, we're living in a post-Christian culture. There are fewer people now, less than the majority of people are attending church on a weekly basis. We've never seen that in our culture, where less than half of the people attend church on a regular basis. We're in a new America, and the Christian informed morality that used to exist, the norms, societal conventions, are now being replaced with a new morality. And Perry, because it's not grounded in anything biblical or objective, it's a complete dog's breakfast. It's a complete hash. Nothing makes sense. Feminists don't complain about Muslims because even though they're treating their women so poorly, and you wonder what is going on there. Charles Barkley can say sexist things about women in San Antonio, Texas, and nobody bats an eye, and you go, well, why don't they criticize their... It's because it's the new morality, and there's nothing consistent because it's not grounded in biblical morality.
This does provide, Todd, a unique opportunity for the faith community. I don't know what kind of mail you do get there, but here we get a lot of letters and emails, good and bad. But it does boil down to a couple of things, and that is, if I was to categorize them, they're asking two questions. What is truth? And who can I trust? I mean, that's being handed to us a golden platter. The truth is the gospel, and the one you can trust is Christ.
Yeah, isn't it funny that Pontius Pilate asked that same question 2,000 years ago? Yeah. And truth was standing in front of him. Now, I know the Christians lament. They don't believe the Bible, so I can't quote it. Everybody thinks it was Charles Spurgeon who said, how do you defend a lion in a cage? You don't. You open up the cage and you let it out. How do you defend the scriptures? You don't. You use it and you let it cut like the two-edged sword that it is. So when somebody says, well, you're just using your Bible to talk about truth, just say, I know I am. I'm just telling you what it says. Well, I don't believe what it says. I know you don't. I'm just telling you what it says. And we proclaim the truth, knowing that the Holy Spirit works with his word to convince the world of sin, righteousness, and judgment. We have the truth. And so we just need to be proclaiming it and let God do the convincing work that only he can do.
Well said. Before I take a break, you know, we had a we've had a couple of tragedies here in the Pacific. We had one yesterday just outside of Portland, a school shooting, and then the week before that up at Seattle Pacific, a college. How do you deal with that on your show?
Very, very sensitively. We need to be good theologians. We need to present the way God presents himself in the Bible, which means he's in control of all things. We need to do it very thoughtfully because people are actually hurting. These days, my concern, Perry, is that a lot of Christians talk about God as if he's the Red Cross or 411. We have to inform him about a tragedy, and then he comes to the rescue and hopefully takes something good out of it. The theology of sovereignty informs us there's something different going on in the universe, that God is running everything, involved in everything, including school shootings, and it's our job to dig into our Bibles to figure out what is he doing, because I believe when we do that, we will find great comfort in knowing about God and how he is working in evil situations, rather than trying to say that God, he's just not aware of it and he's responding too. I don't think that's a hopeful or helpful response. I think a biblical response is, even though it's a harder message up front.
All right, Todd, let me take a break. I know you don't know what those are in your show. And when we come back, I want you to deal with something that I think is somewhat of a cancer in Christendom, and that's cynicism. I'll let you respond to that when we get right back with Todd Friel, host of Wretched TV here on the Dove. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and our good buddy Todd Friel is back with us. He's the host of Wretched TV, seen here on the Dove TV network, and 9 o'clock weekday evenings, and sometimes we just throw it in around just so we can catch somebody else at a weird time with it. And oh no, now he's got his intellectual look on. He's got his glasses.
That's exactly what I was going for there. Does it work?
Well, not. You know, your new haircut and your glasses, you you almost look too academic for me, Todd.
Nobody has ever said that to me.
Yeah.
These are, I think I got these at the grocery store. These are, I'm a 1.5.
As long as they
told
work.
Me this would happen, and I'm a 1.5.
Yeah, I only need them when I want to see. Listen.
Okay, Perry, I kid you not. At restaurant, because I don't carry them around, and I don't have that, the librarian thing where you hang them down like that.
Yeah.
Here's what I have to do at the restaurant. Literally, kids, hold the menu so Daddy can read it across the table.
Yeah.
Because this just is not happening anymore. The reason I put my glasses on, though, Perry, I wanted to read can I read it? Can we still read a Bible verse publicly? Is that still okay?
Yes, you can do it on this show. Go ahead.
Okay. You better do it quick, otherwise $2.5 million for you.
Yeah.
This is Lamentations.
Okay.
This is a Bible verse that is very hard to hear up front, but is ultimately very, very comforting. Who is he who speaks it and it comes to pass? We're talking about God here. When the Lord has not commanded it, is it not from the mouth of the Most High, here's the tricky part, that woe and well-being proceed? And what's being presented by Jeremiah is, when we see bad things happening, calamitous things, we need to understand they are from the hand of God. But we've got to make a distinction. God does not cause evil. God permits evil, like a school shooting at Pacific. He permits it. He's aware of it because he is going to use that sin sinlessly. He is not unaware of it. He's fully aware of it. He doesn't like it, but he permits it because he does everything not to his children, but for his children. And so with that knowledge, rather than shaking our fist at God, we can submit to God and say, all right, Lord, What would you like to teach me? How would you like to grow me? Show me how to respond to this rightly, not blaming him, not accusing God. God permits it. But when we see a calamitous thing, a difficult thing, when we see a storm or a hurricane, we can say that is directly from God himself doing something hard for us. Now, I know that's hard up front. And if you're facing a calamity, you've got a sick child, it's very, very difficult. But we need to understand that God does everything for his children. He's not capricious. He's not in a bad mood. He's not unaware. Our physician never gives us a cup of poison. It's always good for us.
Well, that's beautifully said. Thank you, Todd. As we were going into the break, we talked a little bit about cynicism and how cynical people have become to the point where why bother to engage in this culture? These are the last days. God is now actually orchestrating all of this stuff. So why get in the middle of it? Why bother? And out of that, we come away with, I mean, if you listen to conservative talk radio today, there's no hope. I mean, it is hopeless conversation. Turn it off and go for a fast for a while, you know. I don't know. Do you want to respond to that?
If I'm listening to conservative talk radio, and there's nothing wrong with that, we're talking balance here, you're right, it is hopeless because they aren't talking about anything hopeful. As a Christian, I can see everything kind of going up in shambles, and I can respond like Habakkuk. This is a great Old Testament verse. Habakkuk is seeing his country under siege, and we're talking about real physical siege here. And he's crying out to God, Lord, where are you? And God responds in just mind-boggling ways. He said to Habakkuk, oh, I'm doing a great thing. I'm doing something so amazing, you won't even believe it. I'm raising up the Chaldeans to wipe you out. And you go, wait a second, that's not very comforting, Lord. We need to remember God is working. We might look at it and think it's a mess. He's orchestrating everything just right for those of us who are in Christ and for his glory. So unlike talk radio, I can look at these news stories and not be troubled. I can sleep just fine at night because I know who is writing all of these stories. It's God himself. And let me just say this too, Perry, if you don't mind. What you're hearing on Christian or on secular talk radio, the news stories that you see on your local news, it's this much of the evil that is going on in the world. Right now, people are blaspheming God's name. People are committing adulterous acts. People are fornicating outside of marriage. They're not married. They're committing grotesque acts physically. They're greedy. They're covetous. The sin in this world is far worse than anything any news broadcast can capture. And if we just focus on that, we're going to be a scared people, but we're not. Because God is involved in everything, writing everything exactly the way that he wants it. And when I trust that, I sleep just fine.
Good for you. Because sometimes what really gets to me is the selling of fear and even sometimes showcasing it in God's will. And I'm wondering, well, wait a minute, where's the hope in that, you know? Yeah,
and you know, Perry, it might be that we are, like, Jesus is right around the corner. It could be. It could be 20,000 years. Maybe we're still in the early church period. I don't know. But Jesus gives us these signs, not so we can predict the date, but so that we can be reminded he's coming back. And all of the evil that we see will be dealt with in one of two ways. God will pour out his wrath on these evil people, or Jesus will have received the wrath of God on their behalf. Either way, justice will be satisfied. All of the wrongs will be righted. God will take care of it. It's not mine to go about being vengeful. God's going to deal with it one way or another. And so I can say it is well with my soul.
How do you think, Todd, we can get the culture to see the church as a hospital and not a museum?
Yeah, you know, the church is a great witness to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And Perry, the truth is, I think the Christian church does a tremendous amount of great stuff. We really do.
Right.
We don't toot our horns about it, but we're the number one adopters. We're the number one givers. We're the number one feeders. We're the number one well diggers. People don't hear about it. They will know we are Christians by our love. I think that we do bear those fruits regularly, but the one thing that I would encourage the Christian church to be doing along with that is is to be vocal proclaiming the gospel, to be proclaiming the good news. The world right now is hopeless. We've got hope. My encouragement would be, church, keep up the great work because you're doing great work. Now, let's tell people about the great work of Jesus. And then when they hear the gospel, our good works will support our confession of faith.
You're hot. What'd you put on your cereal this morning?
Actually, blueberry pancakes. Mrs. Friel made some blueberry pancakes. They had to cook on the grill for about 10 minutes. They were so thick.
Oh, that could be a little tough. Yeah, chew on one of those for a week. Hey, listen, we're going to have you come out and do one of your shows out here. We're building our new studios, and when we're in, maybe sometime next year, come on out and do a show out here.
You know what? It would just be a joy. And let me just say again to the viewers who are watching, not every Christian network, maybe you know this, is a great Christian TV network. You're watching a great one right now. So thank you guys.
Thank you. So where do you see the Lord taking you, Todd? You got a remarkable show. It's very different, very different. I mean, you use every emotion in the world there. How would you describe your calling?
Well, what I'd ultimately like to do is I would like to create more Christian TV shows. We're working on one right now. There's a wonderful book called Finally Free for men who struggle with pornography addiction. We're taking this, it's a terrific book by Heath Lampert, Finally Free.
Yeah.
We're turning it into a 1-hour TV show.
Really?
So that people can see this and understand, hey, you have felt like there is no hope for you. There is hope for you when you apply theology rightly. So we're trying to create more quality Christian TV shows.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that because we feel very much led to get in content development. That's the future.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So where are you with this show? Are you going to have it available soon?
Yeah, actually, we're bringing in Heath Lampert. He's going to be here in a couple of weeks. And then we got to, you know, all the stuff that goes into making a TV show. We're also working on a program with Scott Klusendorf from Pro-Life Training, outstanding pro-life apologist. Always raising the question, what is it that is inside of a woman? It is a human, and we don't kill people. And we're turning that into a 13-part series so that we can be pro-life apologists and have testimonies of women who have had an abortion but have found forgiveness in Jesus Christ, so they don't feel that burden of guilt of killing their own child. They can hear there is hope if you run to Jesus.
Wow, I'm impressed. That's good stuff. I think our portfolios are more parallel than we think.
I think so too. You know what? I'll tell you what's really been helpful. You know those little energy drinks that they sell at the really helping us out here.
Yeah, well, watch it. I'll be doing addiction counseling with you. All right. Well, listen. Just a little bit of a political commentary from you. Last night, Eric Cantor got handed his hat. What's that tell you?
It tells me that everybody was talking. I caught the TV too. You know, I don't live in a cave someplace, so I'm watching the TV, and everybody's the power of talk radio. And I went, oh no. Talk radio does not do anything to the constituency. The constituency is there. Talk radio just represents it to some degree. In this country, there are a lot of faithful people who love the Lord, who are trying to enter into the arena of politics to do good for people. You know, the big gay issue that everybody's a little bit weary of. You know, the secularists, they promote a lifestyle that ultimately ends their life sooner. We Christians, we want people to live. We don't want them to die. And we're considered the bad guys and the mean guys. We're entering into the arena where our compassion is demanded so that people can live and experience life. And it shows me we should be encouraged. There are a lot of good Christians out there that are putting feet to their faith.
Well, Todd, you're an inspiration and a delight. People that want to correspond with you, what's your website?
It is wretched.tv, as in wretched man that I am. Wretched.tv, as in Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound. Oh, wait a second. We cut that line out.
No.
Churches.
It's just don't take up singing. That's certainly not part of you.
Believe me.
All right. Hey, thanks, pal. Thanks for your time. Blessings to you. Keep up the good work and keep us in the loop when you do those other programs. Our hand is in the air to air them for you.
Oh, sweet.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Todd Friel, host of Wretched TV, seen weekday evenings at 9 o'clock right here on the Dove TV. There he is, Mr. Intellectual himself. Kind of want to be. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at the Dove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.